There's been a fun trend going around Instagram and TikTok lately about propaganda you won't fall for. And I loved this trend and did my own version on Instagram of propaganda that I will never teach you as a marketing mentor. So I want to break some of these down a little bit more in depth and share some other marketing myths that I want you to know not to fall for or not to give up if any of these things might happen to you. So let's go ahead and get started. The first myth that I want to break for you today is about launching. And that myth is that if you have an unsuccessful launch, you don't meet your launch goals, that your product is destined for failure. I see this all the time, especially with new product owners, like your very first launch, that you see what's happening with other people. You think you see another, debut author getting thousands of pre-orders and think that that is either the norm or set really lofty goals for yourself. And I'm all for setting high goals. I have very high goals for myself as well. But whenever we are comparing ourselves to others and then falling below that, we might think that it's an issue with our product and that we just need to move forward and write another book and launch another book as soon as possible because that one will go better. That's often not the case. So if you have a launch that just didn't go as planned, I want you to know that your product has many, many years ahead of it to find its people. Now you still have to market it to find your people, but a lot of times people think like, oh, the hype is going to end, my launch is over, so the interest is going to fade. Not if you keep marketing it. Really, a lot of readers or people who are buying your products, whether you write music or you create products like jewelry, handmade things, all of these types of creatives that I work with, your customer typically doesn't care when it was released. Truly, some readers might like to read brand new books and kind of stay focused on new releases, but a lot of the times we're going to the library, to the bookstore, we're picking up books that have been out for a while because the cover, the title, the book description captures our interest, or we saw the person marketing on social media and fell in love with the plot, or we saw a review, or whatever it might be. So your product has a lifetime of sales ahead of it if you keep going and you keep marketing it. So for example, I've given this example before with my very first book. I sold like 2 copies in the first week as a new author. I didn't know what I was doing. That book has sold over 7,000 or 8,000 copies now. That's because I didn't stop talking about that one and I kept talking about my other books as I released more books over the years, and readers then went back and found that first book, right? And it gained support through that. So you are not a failure if your first launch doesn't go as well. You're not a failure if your 10th launch doesn't go as you planned either. If we keep talking about our products, they will not fail, they will not die, and the hype will not fade because we are staying excited about them and marketing them as well. All right, the next myth is you need to convince people that your art, your books, your products are worth it. Okay, so one of my favorite things is helping people who hate marketing to like marketing and to find it fun or even enjoyable and to gain confidence in your marketing strategy. And a lot of times as creatives, I work with a lot of introverts. I work with a lot of sensitive folks who don't really like to be salesy, to self-promote. A lot of us feel uncomfortable with that, and I do too. However, whenever we have this mindset that marketing is all about convincing people that we're worth it, about pulling people over the finish line to become a purchaser of our products, that does feel salesy. That does feel awkward and uncomfortable. And so I want to tell you today that in my world, that is not how I see marketing. Marketing is letting people become aware of your products and letting the right people become aware of our products by raising awareness about them, by talking about them, by giving them the facts about how amazing our product is and letting them make the decision to purchase. That is marketing. It's really awareness, okay? And making sure that our products and us and our brands are getting visible. And so with that, we're not convincing people we're worth it because your art is already worth it. We're simply presenting it to the right people who it's perfect for. And I want to give you an example. So imagine that you own an ice cream store. 2 friends walk into the ice cream store. We have friend 1 who rushes up to the counter. They're looking at all the flavors. They're so excited to pick one. They want to taste a few. And then we have friend 2 who's kind of lingering back. Okay, they're like, actually, I'm not really the biggest ice cream fan. I'm just going to hang back here. Okay. A lot of people, when they think about marketing, they're thinking about self-promotion. They're thinking about sales. They're thinking about, okay, I need to convince people that I'm worth it, right? So in this situation, would you focus on friend 2 and say, well, I'll help you like ice cream, right? I'm not feeling confident about my ice cream. I feel like I need to convince you that it's worth it. My ice cream is really great and you might not like it at all, but I'm going to spend my time convincing you that it's worth it. Or would you focus on friend one who's right in front of you? They're excited. Maybe you help them pick a flavor. You ask them what they typically like and you make some personalized recommendations, right? They're really excited and they're ready to buy. They're this close to buying. But a lot of times in our marketing, we're only thinking about friend two. We're thinking about how can I convince people that I'm worth it? You don't need to. Focus on friend one. They might not be walking into your store. We're selling online, typically the people that I work with, people maybe who are watching this video, right? So we don't need to convince them that we're worth it. We just need to present the facts to help them decide if they want to purchase or not. That is what we're doing in our marketing. All right, so focus on friend one who's excited. You're going to talk to them. You're going to have a great time sharing about your ice cream and what makes it different. And that's the marketing that we want to focus on social media, in emails, in podcast interviews, wherever it is that you're marketing. Those are the people that we want to speak to. Only think about speaking to those customers who are perfect for your work, not people who aren't, because we don't need to convince them. There's enough of the people who are already going to love your stuff. They just simply need to know that it exists. Next, I'm going to talk about a few different content myths when it comes to repurposing, to social media content, to all of those things, because I want to bust them, right? So the first one is you should repurpose content on every platform. This was trendy, maybe it still is, that you make a short form video like a reel and you post it to TikTok, to Instagram, to Facebook, to YouTube Shorts, to LinkedIn, to Pinterest, and it's out there everywhere and you're getting the most visibility. If that's working for you, great. If you love doing that, great. But in my world, I typically am working with people who do not want to be everywhere. I don't either, who don't have the time to sit there and post to every single platform, to optimize on every single platform. Because here's the thing, whenever we're spread thin across all these different places, it's really hard to focus on just 1 to 2 platforms and actually see, okay, I noticed on Instagram, this type did a little bit better. And on TikTok, this type did a little bit better. So now I can split and focus on this type of content on TikTok, this type of content on Instagram, and this is where I'm going to stay and focus. Whenever we're posting 7 different places, we aren't really able to do that as easily. And we're not going to create 7 different types of one video, right, to get the most success across all these platforms. So typically, we actually will see the most success when someone focuses on 1 to 2 platforms instead of 7 and makes content for those platforms, for the audience on those platforms. You get better results because you're able to look at the data, to analyze, to optimize for that platform. So do not feel like you have to repurpose everywhere. All right, the next myth related to social media growth is that there is a certain rate of growth that you should be looking out for. This is another question that I get pretty often, like I'm comparing myself to others and they grew faster than me, or is there a certain number of views or followers I should be getting per post? There really is not a benchmark. Okay, I've tried to find data on this. I've tried to look and compare myself within my own industry and get a sense to give you, but there really isn't. And there's many different factors when it comes to growth. The biggest comparison we want to do is honestly to ourselves. And I don't really love comparison in general. I think it holds a lot of us back. But if you can compare to yourself, to your own growth, if you're someone who's brand new to social media, please do not compare yourself to someone who's been doing it for a decade. And if you started over, or you started fresh, or you switched niches or switched audiences, whatever it may be, we all are starting from different places. We all have different obstacles along the way. And so there's no guaranteed rate of growth. I've even seen this with like posts. Like I could have a post hit 2 million views and get 1,000 followers from that. And I could have a different post get 2 million views and get 10,000 followers from that. So then that's what I'd want to compare to myself and say, what do I think I did differently in this post that built more trust, that got more people wanting to hit the follow button versus this other one? So compare to yourself, look at your past metrics. That's really the best way to figure out what's working and what's not versus comparing ourselves to others, because then we get in the comparison trap and we end up trying to emulate someone else. And it's just never as effective as really using our own past to help us grow. The next one that is so dead, and I'm going to do a more full video on this next, is that whenever you post on social media, you got like 24 hours, 48 hours, and then that post is gone. No more. Social media platforms are really turning into longer term search engines. And the proof is in my notifications, because whenever I go look at my recent notifications on Instagram, I am getting likes and shares and saves on posts from months ago, if not years ago. It's really keeping my engagement up, and it's so fascinating to see. But that's because Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest has always been a search engine, but you get the picture. These platforms are really search engines now, and it's going to keep getting better and better in that regard. So what you're doing today, even if it doesn't perform like you wanted it to, leave it up, let it go, insert some keywords into this, insert phrases that people are searching for on social media already. Try to craft your content around that, because people are searching for these things, and they're going to be searching for these things for months and years to come. And if your content pulls up whenever they search it, it's more likely to continue getting engagement down the line. And I love this. It really helps with consistency, because I could take weeks off from posting and still probably get similar reach than what I'm getting now, because I'm getting these posts from months ago and years ago that people are still interacting with to this day. So if you're brand new to social media, you won't have this benefit, but you will if you keep going and if you stay consistent. And then a year from now, you'll have people still checking out all of the work that you put in this past year. So it really is no longer about once you create a post, it's dead and gone. It's a really nice benefit and a change that we've been seeing over the last couple of years. And the last one that I want to tell you is about unfollows, because I've recently really been thinking about this concept and how I can reframe it for you and for me, because unfollows happen. And as your audience grows, you might see a higher uptick of unfollows as well. So for example, there's been weeks and months sometimes where I have more unfollows than I do new followers. And I'm not panicked about that at all. And there's a couple of reasons why. One is that I've had my accounts for years now, like going on 8 or 9 years, maybe even 10 years at this point. There's a lot of people who maybe followed me in the beginning, those first few years, that are no longer active on Instagram, that their account, unfortunately, might have gotten hacked at this point. And so these platforms are constantly flushing out, deleting, deactivating old accounts, bot accounts, spam accounts, hacked accounts, all of these things. That's one reason. Another reason is people simply are no longer interested. And I don't want people who aren't interested to follow me, because then they're never going to engage with my content. So you might see unfollowers or unsubscribes, this applies to email too, and think I'm doing something wrong or everyone's leaving. But actually, whenever I look at my analytics, I might see 1,000 new people came in this week, maybe 1,000 people left, and that doesn't feel great. But now I have 1,000 new people to focus on, to market to bring into my community and show them why I'm so special. Whereas those 1,000 that left might be bots, haven't been on Instagram in 7 years. It could be all sorts of things. They're deactivating their account and taking a break from Instagram. And so that's not going to be useful for me and my growth anyway. And so learn to say goodbye to those unfollows and bring in and focus on the people who support you, that have been sticking around, and the new people as well. There are so many marketing myths out there, but I want to tell you that marketing really doesn't change that often. The foundations of marketing stay the same because humans stay the same. However, there's a caveat to this, and this year especially, there is a bit of a change in consumer behavior and how marketing impacts that. With the economy changing, with AI really coming into play and affecting a lot of us creatives, a lot of people in my community that I work with on a daily basis, it's changing a little bit. And so I'm doing a free class, a video breaking down all of the things that are changing, the shifts that we need to make to our marketing this year. So if you don't want to miss out on that, make sure you're subscribed. It's coming soon. And you can also join my mailing list, because I'll definitely be sending it out and letting you know whenever it's up so that you don't miss it. And I'll link that in the description of my video or podcast episode. And you can also head to marketingbyshelby.com. It's at the footer of my website to sign up for my mailing list. It's called Marketing Monday. Or you can get any freebie on my website and you will be subscribed to my mailing list from there as well. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.